Well, it seems the NPA has adopted a different strategy, and in that particular media briefing, Shamila Batoy referring to it as the prosecution-led approach, and we'll be finding out exactly what that approach entails. Joining us now is Sipho Ngwema. He's the NPA spokesperson. Sipho, good evening, and thank you so much for your time on News at Prime. Explain what this prosecutor-led approach is and how different it is to how investigations or prosecutions rather have been handled.
Good evening, Cathy, and to the viewers. Basically, prosecution-led investigation means that there is always a direction and supervision that is given by prosecutors during an investigation. Normally what happens is that investigators at a police station will work on a docket, and then on the day before a court appearance, then will interact with the prosecutor. But in this case, they interact on a daily basis. The prosecutor gives direction in order to make sure that by the time they go to court, the docket is ready. And this is why tomorrow, when the accused appear, there will be a lot of work you will see that has been done, including the serving of the indictment on the accused. So by the end of the proceedings tomorrow, everybody will be clear of why the accused appeared, what are the charges before them. This is because of that quality control that the national director spoke about, in order to make sure that by the time the matter goes to court, the prosecutor is happy that the work has been done with regards to this particular leg of the investigation.
So, in effect, you're saying that you're going to have more watertight cases that you will be able to prosecute and not have to drop charges in the middle of the case simply because the evidence that you need is not available.
Yes, indeed. You must remember we learn from our cases. We learn from what has happened before. And so when the prosecutor works with the investigator, the prosecutor makes sure that they direct the investigator to the areas that needs further investigation, that needs further statements, in order to make sure that the credibility of evidence passes the test of the prosecutor, so that by the time they go before a presiding officer, there is a formidable case. We are almost ready on that particular case to start with prosecution.
While the case has progressed, the fact that these arrests have been made is good, but that it has taken 2 years, I think for many South Africans, becomes a big question around the efficiency and the efficacy of the NPA and the extent to which there is a sense of urgency in prosecuting some of the wrongdoing that has taken place in this country.
Yes, and we understand that, but we want to make sure that we maintain the balance between that impatience, but also to make sure that the product that is taken before the presiding officer is tight. One of the things the national director and the general said today is that commercial crimes take time. You need to go through all the paper trail and to make sure that you drove through a fine comb. And we want to make sure that by the time these cases are heard, we are almost certain that you are going to get a decision.
And what about those who argue, sorry for interrupting you, what about those who argue that much of the paper trail that you would have been looking for has already been in the public domain for 2 years? It's been exposed through the work that has been done by some investigative journalists and even by that report that was done by Advocate Terry Mutau.
You must remember, most of that evidence has not been tested. And when you want to go to court, you want to make sure that that case is tight, that evidence will stand the test. So you have to go through witnesses, you have to go through cross-examination of the evidence that you have. So yes, it is in the public domain, but whether or not it will stand the test of time, the prosecutor and the investigating team will have to look into those things. And this is why these things take time. The test outside the court is much easier. It's based on many other things. However, in court, things are different. And if the NPA were to lose those cases that it takes to court, in fact, people will lose more confidence on the authority. One of the things the national director wants to make sure going forward in terms of the NPA's work is to make sure that their work becomes more professional, becomes more transparent, but also becomes much more credible. So that evidence, as much as it is out there, it needs to be tested. You need to make sure that by the time you go to court, the witnesses that you are going to lead in support of that evidence are formidable, are credible, and they're able to win your cases. So that is not going to happen over a day or two. You need time, you need to test that, and so that your timing is perfect and you're able to strike at the time you think it is time to strike. And this is why what happened today happened.
When are we going to start seeing arrests related to state capture, and in particular, part of the evidence that has come out of the Zondo Commission of Inquiry?
Those investigations are ongoing. In fact, a lot of progress is being made in the background. And what the teams want to do, they want to speak through their actions. So we don't want to speculate in terms of the timing, but as it happened today, we will be able to call the press conferences and the public to update them on the actions that we have taken. And those actions are coming. People will see that. You must remember, the fight on corruption must happen in court. We must win those cases. So it is important that at the end of the day, what we take before court is much more formidable. And those cases, all of them are going to be thoroughly investigated. You must remember, these cases are huge. They happen over a long period of time. And the best way to eat this particular elephant is to deal with it in small chunks. So you will see cases coming, covering all those areas. And in the end, you'll be able to see that the amount of work that has been done and that is happening as we speak.
All right. Sipho Ngwema, he is the NPA spokesperson. Let me thank you for your time tonight on News at Prime.